Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with business coach and strategic consultant Matthew Sanjari. After a life-altering accident derailed his career and life, Matt spent much of the next decade overcoming chronic pain, depression, and a disability to become a serial entrepreneur and transformative figure in the business world. As the founder of Prime Consulting, he leverages over 15 years of business ownership and public speaking experience to empower entrepreneurs and business leaders through coaching and consulting, focusing on pragmatic strategies for scaling businesses and achieving personal growth. It's a great journey. Enjoy.
Well, cool, man. Well, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our conversation before we peel back the layers of your life as a coach and a consultant by, we're hitting this 4-year anniversary of the pandemic. How did you get through that time period, and how did it change you?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think the pandemic was really eye-opening, and there's obviously a lot of negatives that come from that, but I think for me, the pandemic, honestly, was really, really positive in so many respects. I think it kind of exposed a lot of things in my life that were kind of on autopilot and that probably needed a little bit more intentionality, and those are things that I've now carried over into my business. But I think in regards to my health, into my relationships, having to change the way you do things because you can't do them the way you've always done them can seem really jarring at first. But I think for me, looking back, I don't think any of us would have chosen the journey that was the pandemic at first. But I think looking back, it was a really positive experience for me and really shaped a lot of mindsets.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. It's one thing to see it on paper, but I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third-grade students. It's career day, and one of the kids curiously looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd probably ask that child, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I assume that they would probably say, "I want to be an actor or an astronaut or something." And what I would tell them is I would say, "I help people take what's in their heart and what's in their head and put it on paper and make plans so that those things actually happen." So when you tell me what you want to see happen or what you're hoping to see happen or the dream you've had, I actually come in and build a plan and work on the implementation and the execution to make sure that that concept gets worked out in real life.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, man, I wanted to be an athlete. It was somewhere between a hockey player and a football player. And then I stopped growing, and that dream died pretty quick.
So let me ask you this. Since you talked about coming to Kansas City to see a game, what's been your favorite stadium, favorite city sports experience you ever had?
Oh, man, we've had so many. I think, again, we've been to almost 14 stadiums so far. I would say, in terms of favorite stadium, the Rams-Chargers Stadium, that new stadium in L.A. is very cool. Looking up at the scoreboard, even just walking around with all of the concessions, it was a really cool stadium. But if we're talking atmosphere, this past year we went to Philly and we saw Philly play the Bills in probably what was one of the best games of the NFL season. And the atmosphere from the tailgate to the seats was just unbelievable. Seeing people get into it, seeing people excited. The game ended up being crazy as well. But, yeah, I would say between those two cities, that those are probably two of the best sports experiences we've had so far.
So you just pinpointed why the Chiefs won this Super Bowl year, and I'm going to tell you why. That game, I feel a little bad for Buffalo because we beat them all the time, and I know they want to get to the mountaintop. But they bellyached after they didn't get the coin toss that one season that we won that miraculous game in Arrowhead. And with the NFL Board of Governors, they forced another response in overtime. So it wasn't just one, it was two, okay? That game was the first time that was put to the test, and they lost the game after they tried to respond to Philly.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, I had no idea. It's funny, it's funny living in Canada. Everybody kind of pigeonholes us as being Buffalo fans because we're pretty close to Buffalo, but I reject that completely.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was just weird. It's weird how karma works and how it comes around. But so let me ask you this: who has been I guess that's my big thing with your timeline is how did you arrive at this point? Take me back to where you were born and raised. What were the seeds that were put into you to become this kind of guru of helping people get to where they want to go professionally?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if we have the time for the full story, but if I were to sum it up, I'm a first-generation Canadian. My father, a refugee, my mother's an immigrant, and so it was embedded in me. I saw entrepreneurship, I saw hardship, I saw people, make the best of some really crummy situations my entire life. And then in about 2012, I got into a traumatic car accident that almost took my life. I was 3 inches from death when I hit two horses driving home in the middle of the night, and totaled the car, left me with, honestly, some injuries that I'm still battling to this day. And so kind of going on that journey and being an entrepreneur myself, I had to learn so many things in that process. I had to learn, one of the things I ask my clients all the time is I say, hey, you know what, if you got knocked out for a month, what would happen to your business? And more often than not, people say, well, it would probably, go down the drain. And I say, well, then you don't have a business, you have a job. Because when you stop showing up to your job, you stop getting paid. And I learned that lesson, with chronic headaches, chronic pain, depression, being knocked out, losing clients. I learned that if I don't recognize what I'm actually in control of, what I can control, what I can work on, and start to build systems around those things and put things in place, then I'm never going to grow. I'm going to be a victim to my circumstance, and I'm actually going to stay in the exact place that I was when I first got into that accident in the aftermath. And so I think, that moment really triggered a series of events that ultimately just taught me to take radical responsibility for my life and start to really try and control the things that I can control. And that's kind of just spilled over to the rest of my life and has now helped me with a lot of my clients.
So let me ask you this. Who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration for you in your life?
Man, honestly, I've had mentors, I've had coaches throughout the years, but I would say my dad. That it may feel a little cliche, but seeing somebody come to this country in this part of the world as a refugee with nothing but the clothes on his back, all of his education just kind of wasted. He was starting to be a doctor, and see him grind, see him put pedal to the metal and really just build this beautiful life. And the sacrifices that, as I got older and as I progressed, and, I'm actually recently engaged. And so as I move on with my life, I'm even just so grateful that basically my father's ceiling became my floor. And as I get older, I'm really appreciative of so many life lessons that it's not even that he taught me them as much as I just look back and I remember watching him and seeing how he operated, seeing how he treated people, seeing how he would take care of people, how even as a business person, he was just so compassionate and filled with generosity. So many stories, just a quick one where, my father, he started in the restaurant business. And so, people would come in. One of his locations was in a shadier part of town. And he would constantly just give food away to people that didn't have it. And we were struggling at the time. Business wasn't great. And, I might have been, 8 or 9, but those things are embedded in me. I remember them. And my father never had to say, be generous, take care of people this way, because he just lived it and everyone around him knows it. And so I would say my dad's very much my hero in so many ways, but especially in the realm of business.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh man, the list is endless. But I think for me, I would probably say Elon Musk. And for me, the reason why is, I look at him as somebody who consistently actually gets into the trenches and tries to be part of the solution in a lot of his endeavors. And that's something that I really appreciate. I'm now on my third business. And for me, there's something, I never want to be too far removed from the people that I'm building life with, no matter, what success comes or how many wins we get. And so the fact that, I hear stories of how he would sleep on the factory floor, or how he still, would go onto the production line, have meetings and, interview people. To me, that just really inspires me because I always want to feel connected as much as I can to everybody that gets to play a part in our corporate success, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, for sure. So, you're obviously highly driven. You're helping people out. What is the thing that gets you out of bed every day? What motivates you, drives you, not only to do your job well, but to essentially evolve as a human being?
Yeah, great question. For me, my why has always been family. Again, if you think back to what I was saying around, my upbringing and seeing what my parents and my extended family had and didn't have, I think that really just put something in me at a young age where I was like, you know what? I don't want to leave anything on the table. If I can build a business, if I can create wealth, if I can buy back my time to hopefully help some of my family and eventually my future family, then yeah, I want to do that. And I think just seeing that struggle and seeing people put in effort and hours and just be behind the ball by virtue of, immigrating or emigrating late, I think this really stirred something in me. So every morning, and, days turn into weeks turn into months, I think that's been my primary motivation is, how can I go about and help the people in my life, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, whether it be spiritually. And so that has always been a driving force. And to be honest, that's very much what I'm seeing now in my coaching and my consulting as well.
So you have to dispense good advice to your clientele. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Yeah. I think back to that car accident, and my perspective wasn't this as good as it is now back then. I think someone really challenged me about finding one of my mentors challenged me around finding the purpose in my pain and really understanding, I can't change what happened to me, but really understanding why I went through it and what could come out of it. And naturally, I absolutely hated that advice in the moment and wanted to potentially throw them through a wall. But as time went on, I found such beauty in that because, there's so many things that we can't change in life that we didn't get to decide the position we're in, but we do get to decide what comes next. And I think for me, finding the purpose and trying to explore, when I go through pain, when I go through hardship like we all do, asking myself, okay, how did we get here? What am I feeling? What are we doing? And where do we go next? I think has just been a really, really important part of my life and one that I hope to kind of inspire others around as well.
So of all of the things that you've done and overcome and achieved and become, what are you the proudest of?
Getting engaged. Yeah. Recently engaged 2 months ago. We're going to get married hopefully soon and, start that phase of my life. But I honestly think that's my proudest moment. I mentioned my dad being my hero, and my parents are amazing. My family's amazing. But looking back, as much as I love business and a lot of my professional achievements, I think just on a personal level, being proud of who I am and getting to maybe move on into the next stage of life is something that really excites me. And so I would say that for me, that's been my crowning achievement to this point.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm someone that cares deeply about people and wants to see them reach their full potential. And I'm not sure that I always go about it in the proper way or the way that is the most orthodox, but I think that the people in my life would always say that I care deeply and want to see people succeed, and I would say the same about myself. And I hope that is my legacy that I leave on this earth.
So if you could get into a sports time machine and see one game, one moment with your own eyes, where are you going?
Oh, man. Joe, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing
right,
this to me?
I know. That's the best answer right there.
Hold up. Do I get to influence the outcome, or am I just going back in time to witness it?
I don't know. Let's do both.
Okay, so if I could be at a game, I think the St. Louis Rams got me into football. I was a huge Kurt Warner fan, so I would say I think it was the 1999 Super Bowl where they beat the Titans. And the greatest show on turf. I would have loved to be at that game. I was young, but it would have been really cool to see, I think, one of the most prolific offenses in history do their thing. And if I could change an outcome, it would have probably been, I think, the 2007 Arizona Cardinals. Kurt was at quarterback, and they lost late fourth quarter to the Steelers. And looking back, if I had a chance, I'd say, Kurt, don't throw that ball. Just don't. You're so close to the end zone. Don't throw the ball. Let's hand it off, get the touchdown. But what do you do?
Oh, wow, that's great. Great answers. Did you see that movie on him?
I did. I thought it was awesome. I thought
I did too.
I think it was Zachary Levi was the name of the actor. I thought he did a great job.
I did. Yeah, I agree. I was on a flight from, I think, San Diego to Seattle, and it was so much fun just to kind of see the world from above and to experience that film. It was awesome. So let's get to the good business here. If anyone out there, Matthew, wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, anything about your world, what's the good business?
Yeah, consultingbyprime.com is my website, consultingbyprime.com. Or you can look me up on Instagram or LinkedIn. I love to connect with people. The name is Matthew Sanjari, Sanjari, Matthew Sanjari, Sanjari. Give me a shout, connect with me. I love hearing people's stories, and hopefully I get to help a few people along the way.
What an inspirational story, Matthew. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Keep on sending the magic out there, man.
Joe, you're the man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been an honor.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.